When it comes to quality sleep, Ashley has you covered with top mattress brands at winning prices and with special financing options available. You can snooze now and pay later. Plus, your mattress purchase helps give the gift of better sleep to children in need and U.S. Special Operations Forces. Visit your local Ashley store or shop online today and make every snooze count. Financing is subject to credit approval. See store or ashley.com for details.
Rosetta Stone is the language learning program with a lasting impact. I've been using their app to learn French, and it's not just about memorizing words, but actually having real conversations. And it's not just French. They offer 25 languages. Right now, Rosetta Stone has an awesome holiday deal, 50% off their lifetime membership. Every language, unlimited access forever. For anyone keen on diving deep into a new language, check out rosettastone.com. It's a game changer.
Welcome to True Crime Garage. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Nick, and with me, as always, is a man that says if you have a sombrero, throw it to the sky. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the captain.
Would you say I have a plethora of sombreros? It's good to be seen, and it's good to see you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for telling a friend.
Today we are quite lucky because we are still sipping on some Run Julius Run from Tactical Brewing Company. Run Julius Run is an incredibly delicious Orange Julius New England India Pale Ale with vanilla and oranges. ABV 6%, garage grade 5 out of 5 bottle caps. And here's some big cheers to our friends that helped us out with this week's shows. First up, cheers to Melody in Riverside, California.
And a big We Like Your Jib to Chrissy from Nottingham, Maryland.
And next we have a big cheers going out to Ben W. from Parts Unshown. Ben, may your mug runneth over. Everyone we mentioned went to truecrimegarage.com, clicked on the donate button, helped us out with this week's beer run. We're giving you a shout out to you and your home city. And for all of that, we thank you for riding in the sidecar with us this week.
Well, and hopefully everybody's parts stay covered. Say it with me, BWRUN, Beer Run. Thanks for sharing our show on social media. It means a lot. It goes a long way. But if you need more True Crime Garage for your earballs, make sure you check out our bonus show on Stitcher Premium. It's called Off the Record, and you have to be nasty to listen to it. So check that out at truecrimegarage.com. And that is enough of the business.
All right, everybody, gather around, grab a chair, grab a beer. Let's talk some true crime. Police impounded the Kia Sorento that was at the campsite and started processing it for clues. They also obtained a search warrant to tow and search the black 1987 Ford Econoline van that the women basically lived out of and that was parked at the McDonald's. Some marijuana paraphernalia was found in the van, but police discovered through paperwork found in the van that the women also had a storage unit that was paid for by one of the fathers, Sean-Paul. So he gives them permission to search this storage unit. This is at the A1 storage units where the women had a unit shared with the father. So more drug paraphernalia is found at the storage unit. We also have some cell phones and tablets that were seized according to the warrant. It doesn't seem that there was much interest by the way of clues in the van or at the storage unit.
Just to point out the obvious to everybody, let me be Captain Obvious for a second. This would be so much harder to investigate because if they had a house or they lived in an apartment, then you have neighbors that are there all the time. So at a campsite, your neighbors, quote unquote, right, are constantly changing. There's new people coming into that area every day, every night. And a lot of those people are either nomadic or they're just there on vacation. See what I'm saying? So then to go back in time and start trying to collect evidence, you don't know who was all there. And especially like you said, some of these campsites, you're just plopping down your stuff and you don't have to pay for it. So there's no record of who's coming in and coming out.
Well, and they're known to camp and move campsites as well. Remember when that was part of the problem in finding the girls or the ladies to begin with, was that no one was really, they knew that they were camping somewhere, but they didn't know where.
Right. It'd be a whole different type of investigation for law enforcement.
But as far as the searches go, if there was anything found of evidentiary value in the Kia, it has not been disclosed. Now, some people suspect that given the drug paraphernalia that was found amongst their possessions, that the women may have been killed as part of a drug deal gone wrong. But again, it's just marijuana. It's just weed. It would seem very unlikely that they were killed over a little bit of weed. But while we're on the subject of searches, this is the most interesting, one of the more interesting parts of this investigation to me here, Captain. There's another search that was aimed at specifically finding the killer. This is per ABC4. This says, in October, authorities released an affidavit for a search warrant related to the case. The affidavit was signed on September 20th and executed on the same day. In it, investigators request a tower dump from a cell tower at Jimmy Keene Flats, which is not far from the campsite of Schulte and Turner, our two victims. The tower dump or information dump that they're looking for would be from 9 p.m. on August 13th through 9 a.m. on Sunday, August 15th. Additionally, the affidavit states this could be limited to those phones that are only within 2 miles of the crime scene. So they needed this information from the cell towers because it could provide evidence of the crime or crimes of murder. And in the search warrant, they're going to have to specify this, but they go as far to say, we're looking for this information because it will help us with evidence in the crime of murder, conspiracy to commit murder, tampering with evidence, sexual assault, or desecration of a corpse, or even rape. So they're not going to let the actual crime dictate anything here in the search warrant. They're throwing everything out there that they possibly can think of when asking for this cell phone tower information dump to come through. So another search warrant that was executed by investigators sought the information relating to a specific phone number registered with AT&T. This search warrant states that a single Samsung cell phone was recovered at the scene, at the crime scene, and is currently in evidence. So the cops had found one cell phone at the crime scene.
But they're not telling us if it's one of the ladies' phones or not.
Right, and that's the thing. We know that both of the women had cell phones, so where was the other one? And of course, with this information coming out, it's believed by the public that this phone that they're looking for belonged to one of the women. And that may be true according to the court documents that say, as only one cell phone has been recovered, we are currently searching for another phone that was known to be possessed by one or both victims. Per the search warrant, investigators believe the information stored by the service provider / carrier of this number could provide information about the whereabouts of the phone, as well as other information that may lead to a suspect. Those are the words in this legal document.
Right.
So we know they're looking for a cell phone. It's believed it belonged to one of the girls, one of our victims here. So investigators, look, they want to take a look at all the activity on the missing phone because they want to know if Is there information on that missing phone that could tell us what happened?
Yeah, because let's say hypothetically it wasn't just weed, but maybe they were involved in something more that, well, there would be maybe some communication, meet us at this campsite.
Yeah, but I mean, anything. I mean, they may have taken a picture of the creepy guy. They may have, the thing that is the big aha moment here is when you put all these pieces together, what they're essentially saying is that one of the victims' cell phones is missing. We believe it was taken from the crime scene by the killer.
Right.
If we can get information that tells us about all of the cell phones and all the cell phone activity during that window of time that we stated during our search warrant, we think that that information will help lead us to find this missing cell phone. And once we find the missing cell phone, we likely have our suspect because, again, we believe the killer took the phone. Now, of course, this gets complicated because the cell phone tower information that they are looking to get would end up telling them the name of every individual who was within a 2-mile radius during that time. And, of course, we also have like a situation like with the guest at the ranch. There's 100 guests there at that wedding that we already previously discussed. That's a whole bunch of additional people that they are now going to have to look at, ask questions of, and these are other people that have to be vetted that may have taken that cell phone as well. So it's no easy task, but it seems like a very smart route to take here when they are looking for this killer. Now, if anything specifically has come of these searches, it has not been fully disclosed.
But yeah, like you were saying though, if you're in law enforcement, you're going, the killer's probably on this list.
Probably on the list, and if he,
or most likely,
why does he take one cell phone but not the other one? Is it the only one that he found at the scene? Why did he take it? There must be something on it or some reason that he chose to take it. And
such a horrific crime, and we have these victims that seemed like everybody in their community really cared about, that there were unique individuals. It kind of seemed like these minimalist, van living, almost hippie in a sense, nomadic lifestyle, and for such a horrific crime. And like we said before, you have law enforcement coming out saying, well, we don't think the community is in danger. I disagree with that. But because of the location and the time frame, some people would think that this case was possibly connected to another high-profile case.
Yeah, so by September of 2021, there was another case, and the other case was dominating the headlines at the time. And this kind of put Crystal and Kylen's murder case, as far as the public eye was concerned, a little more on the back burner. But this other case also complicated things in the double murder investigation because law enforcement had to devote a lot of man hours to determining whether the cases may or may not be connected. And of course, if you all remember back to late last year, you know that we're talking about the Gabby Petito case. Crystal and Kylen were last seen on the 13th, except for the unconfirmed gas station interaction on the 14th. On the 12th, the day before they were last seen at Woody's Tavern, Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito were pulled over after someone called the police for assaulting Gabby in front of the Moonflower Community Co-op in Moab. Remember, the co-op was where Kylen worked as a cashier.
Right.
Now, Moab does not have a lot of murders, and for there to be two high-profile cases with such a specific nexus seemed very unlikely. As a result, it catapulted Crystal and Kylen's case into the whole Gabby Petito mess. So the damage to Crystal and Kylen's case caused by this distraction, we really don't know the level of that. The eyes of the nation were on Grant County Sheriff's Office, and they had to devote time and resources to both looking for Gabby and also defending themselves against allegations that they were to blame for Gabby's death because they didn't arrest Brian for assaulting her. And worst of all, they had to spend time investigating whether Brian Laundrie could have killed Crystal and Kylen.
Because not only are they in the area, but they're living the similar lifestyle, van life, and basically this nomadic lifestyle, going from one campground to another campground. And it's like, is this the creepy guy that they were talking about the night before?
Well, and to this day, without giving away too much of a spoiler alert, we've had significant advances and updates in this investigation, in the double murder investigation. But still to this day, there are people out there that believe that this is still a possibility that Brian Laundrie is responsible for the double homicide as well, even with these significant advances and updates in this investigation.
Right. Yeah, and we believe that it's just kind of happenstance that these cases interconnect with each other, but I don't believe that they're connected in any way other than the location.
A Moab man camping in Cortez filed a police report. This was a big, significant advance here in this investigation. And this is really interesting to me because Sean-Paul Schulte, the father of one of the victims, he came to the area, to Moab, with the purpose of helping solve his daughter and daughter-in-law's murders. And he set up what he was calling a clue booth where people could drop by and submit a tip to him. And he was really trying to help investigators and round up people and set up a location where people could come and might feel comfortable sharing information that they have, however important it is to the case or otherwise. Now, so this tip comes from one of his clue booth tips, where a Moab man ended up filing a police report. And the news reported that they obtained the incident report, confirming that a 9mm Turkish-made pistol was reportedly stolen, along with a Turkish-made shotgun and bolt-action hunting rifle. Now, note that the Grand County investigators have never discussed what type of ammo was used to kill the women or what type of shell casings were found, but Sean-Paul, the father, was full of information, which may or may not be correct, but he posted it, so we're going to review it. And it says, "This is big news. We now know we are looking for any leads on a hot 9mm. It's a silver-colored 9mm bullet. It's a very specific ammo. The private investigator, Jensen, explained what he reported was that a Turkish 9mm was stolen, and what he's talking about is a custom 9mm. So this is would be a rare, almost one-of-a-kind, unique gun that he believes, that the private investigator believes that they should be looking for, and that the ammo may be, it's very specific ammo, is what he's saying. That this could be, you find the person that has this or had this in their possession, and you likely have found the killer. Well,
yeah, and he's stating this. Law enforcement's not stating this. I wonder if at this point, if law enforcement is freaking out that he's releasing this information.
Well, not only that, he's also releasing information that's saying that police question a person of interest. And so while you have police, they're not up front and center telling us everything that's going on in the investigation. As this investigation drags out, the information that the victim's father was privy to, he's now purposely putting some of this information out. He's probably not feeling so great about the investigation the further and the longer it drags on.
Right. It'd be tough to be in his situation. If you feel like this is a clue that needs to be out there, I would have a hard time holding that back.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would, obviously, your emotions are running wild, but you don't want to tamper with the case so much where you're not able to get a conviction. But this seems like you said, you find this gun, you have found the killer.
Yeah, and one person, this is possibly the individual that that the father is saying police spoke with or could be one of their persons of interest in this case. It was a man that came onto their radar after he was pulled over for speeding. And the officer was a veteran law enforcement officer and decided not to write a speeding ticket for this individual because the individual creeped him out so much that he didn't want to have to take his eyes off of the person. So he decided, I'm not going to write a speeding ticket just so I don't have to take my eyes off of this person, because he thought that this individual was acting incredibly odd for being pulled over for speeding. And then some interesting things that might make this guy a good suspect is this guy worked at the Moonflower Co-op and knew one of the victims. So he worked at the same place. It sounds like they never worked together or directly together. So I don't know if he worked there prior to this or if they just never worked the same shift or what have you. But the man did admit that he knew Kylen, admit that he worked at the Moonflower Co-op. He was vague in his response when he was asked about his interactions with Kylen. He frequented the co-op before he started working there. And it's rumored that he gave her a rose at one point. So this man, he himself was homeless at the time. He was living in campsites and out of his car. He told the deputy that he would often sleep out in the open by himself, including a spot along LaSalle Loop Road. So we don't know who the creepy guy was, but this guy's admitting that he would camp out in the general area where the spot that Kylen and Crystal were killed.
Right.
So could he be the creepy guy that's unidentified?
Well, he's a creepy guy.
Well, yes, we know that because the officer's saying, hey, he creeped me out.
Was he bearded?
I don't know a whole lot about this guy, to be honest with you, because we're hearing this story secondhand. The initial information comes from Schulte's father.
Sounds like a bearded turd pot to me.
But the information we have, Captain, says that police, yes, they did interview this man. They did look at this man. But when asked about his whereabouts for Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, August 13th through the 15th, he says he could not recall, other than to say that he would travel to a spot that he often slept in, as it was away from other people. This man did refuse to allow police to search his vehicle, but he did direct them to his campsite that he was currently staying at. And it's reported that when police went through his campsite, they seized 2 blankets and a jacket with blood on it. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Do you look forward to the holidays? Maybe you struggle with seasonal blues. This time of year can be a lot, and it's natural to feel some sadness or even anxiety about it. But adding something new and positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings. Therapy can be a bright spot, something to look forward to make you feel grounded, and to give you the tools to manage everything going on. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/garage today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/garage.
Dreaming of overseas adventures or connecting more deeply with family from afar? Rosetta Stone bridges the language gap.
I've tried others, but Rosetta Stone's immersive lessons and voice feedback technology are game changers.
Dive into 25 languages by learning intuitively, just like when you were a kid. And here's the holiday sparkle. Grab a lifetime membership now and save 50%. Gift yourself the world. Head to rosettastone.com now and save 50%. Hey parents, Greenlight is here to take one big thing off your to-do list, teaching your kids about money. With a Greenlight debit card and money app of their own, kids and teens learn to earn, save, and invest. You can send money instantly, set flexible controls, and get real-time notifications of your kids' money activity. Set up chores and put allowance on autopilot to reward them for their hard work. Then learn about the world of money together. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.
You can live out your MasterChef dreams when you find a professional on Angie to tackle your dream kitchen remodel. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Visit Angie.com. You can do this when you Angie that.
All right, we are back. An arresting case that we have here going for us. Colonel, cheers to you. Cheers to the people in the back.
Cheers to you, Captain. And yes, so the man that we are talking about here, he's asked, obviously, several times during the course of these interviews and when he's walking with police, showing them his campsites and such, if he killed the women. And, of course, he's saying time and time again, no, he did not kill them, even though he's not able to really provide a really good alibi for where he was during the course of that weekend that is the time in question here. Now, despite all of the information and some other information that is out there on this individual, it states that police and law enforcement, they really looked at this guy, and through all of their searches of his belongings and his vehicle, they don't end up finding anything that would link him to a crime, to this crime specifically.
Right.
Either. So they are going to let him go. And they do tell the public at some point that we're not so interested in this guy anymore. That's why we've decided to move on from him. We have nothing that puts him at the crime scene. We have nothing that tells us that he committed this crime. And so they're really just spinning their tires if they stay honed in on this individual. This would lead us to that significant press release that took place January 19th of this year, of 2022. Remember, this case is not very old. Now, during this press release back in January, authorities confirmed that they had narrowed the date of death to August 14th. So even though that one police spokesman, Lieutenant Neal, said that they weren't sure if the gunshots they had on audio, remember they told us they had some kind of audio file. He's saying publicly, we are not sure that the gunshots that we have on audio were the gunshots. It certainly seems that the investigators must believe that to be the case because they seem to be able to pin down the murders to the 14th.
Right.
But again, this is unless remember the cell phone that they're looking for. Have they found that cell phone? What do they think would be on that cell phone? Or is there something there that is telling them that the murders happened on the 14th?
It's a fascinating thing, though, that somebody... We know of this crime. People are talking about this crime locally, and that there's this wedding going on, and then they go, hey, we're trying to capture this moment, this family moment of this wedding, but we have something that's of interest that might be connected to the case. That's pretty fascinating. But do we have any other evidence like this in this case?
Well, and again, that could lead to why they believe the murders happened on the 14th, because in this same press release, it's also acknowledged that the investigators had gathered, quote, video evidence from nearby properties. So we don't know exactly what that means or what
Could
other
be
properties
home
that
security video
we
footage?
don't know what the information is or where it was collected from other than that statement, video evidence from nearby properties. So any of that could be telling them that the murders took place on the 14th as well.
Interesting.
The press release also reconfirmed that the investigators were still working with the FBI on the case. Continuing on with this press release, we have the sheriff's office requesting that the Moab community be careful about sharing information on social media. Such information tends to be misinformed, inaccurate, and unhelpful to the criminal investigation, if not dangerous, the sheriff's office says. So they seem to be referring to the public's insistence on continuing to try to link Brian Landry to this case.
Right.
As we discussed earlier, the press release said that Brian and Gabby had been ruled out of any involvement in the case that we're discussing here today. But most importantly, Captain, the January press release contained the following statement. The Grand County Sheriff's Office has several persons of interest but has not yet identified a suspect.
Yeah, no suspect yet until Fox 13 released this news.
We continue to follow breaking news on the double homicide of Kylen Schulte and Crystal Turner. The Grand County Sheriff's Office has identified this man as the suspect in their murders.
Kylen and Crystal were found dead in August of last year. Since then, Kylen's father has been pushing for more answers. Fox 13 News anchor Brian Schnee is live in Moab this evening as we learn more about the connection between the suspect and these two women. Brian.
The Grand County Sheriff's Office says that Adam Pinkowitz worked with Crystal Turner at a local McDonald's. He was one of many persons of interest early on in this case. And when they tried to interview him and locate him, they could not do so. Now, Pinkowitz lived somewhat of a van lifestyle. It's not believed he even had an address here in Moab. They also believe he had only been in the area for a few months. Grand County Sheriff's Office learned that he had been in the LaSalle Mountains and Moab around the same time as the homicide. The Sheriff's Office says they recently received information that prior to him committing suicide, Pinkowitz told someone that he had killed two women in the state of Utah. Sheriff Stephen White would not say where Pinkowitz and his vehicle were found, but it was out of state. They believe he committed suicide back in September of last year. Kylen Schulte's father, very emotional, still trying to, really has put a lot of time and energy, still trying to really rally the community throughout the last few months to share every bit of information that they had. He told us today the name Adam Pinkowitz is a name that he had heard while collecting his own clues on this case.
They have a suspect who killed himself last year, who I believe admitted to killing the girls before he killed himself. So, Grand County Sheriff's Office was right. The case is very solvable. I can't believe I picked up a clue on Adam Pincus in my clue booth in the park. I cannot believe it. The only other thing I can say is that I hope they can process the evidence and close the case soon. And it's my mom's birthday.
Here's a very special moment between Sean-Paul and Sheriff Stephen White with the Grand County Sheriff's Office. Sean-Paul told us that he began to heal when Dog the Bounty Hunter and his crew arrived a few days ago. He believes that Dog and his team were instrumental in the information release from the Sheriff's Office, which can ultimately provide a sense of closure for the families involved, Grand County, and the Moab community. Now, the case is not closed, and it remains an ongoing investigation. The sheriff told us that he doesn't know of the motive or what may have led the suspect to commit the crimes and murder the two women in the LaSalles. They're still trying to gather more information, and they encourage you to contact them if you have more to share. We're live in Moab tonight. Brian Schnee, Fox 13 News.
What a startling revelation there, that the police have had a suspect, one that they liked from very early on in the case, and that it seems to be that this Adam Pinkowitz is responsible for the murders, or at least the sheriff's department was willing to state that publicly and announce it to everyone. Very interesting to see the suspect brought into the spotlight, and that we are told that this is the person. He has been identified as the suspect in this still ongoing investigation. Interesting, too, he committed suicide, and this Adam person tells another party that he had killed 2 women in Utah. Again, not incredibly specific information, but according to this release that I have in front of my eyes here from the office of the Grand County Sheriff's Office, it states on this document that not only did he tell another party that he had killed 2 women in Utah, but also provided specific details that were only known to the investigators at the time.
Well, that's key when you have so many people that want to take credit for these high-profile crimes. But yeah, he was a bearded turd pot. But we also had that suspect early on that were like, well, there's a weirdo that possibly works with Kylen at the flower place.
At Moonflower Co-op?
Yeah, the Moonflower Co-op. So the fact that this guy was connected actually to Crystal at McDonald's was kind of interesting.
Yeah, the official statement is that Adam was a former employee at the McDonald's that Crystal worked at, located in Moab, Utah. And he was identified at the time as one of many persons of interest being investigated by the Grand County Sheriff's Office, stating that the Sheriff's Office made numerous attempts to locate and interview Adam, could not find him. Through continual analysis and collection of evidence, the Sheriff's Office learned that Adam was in LaSalle and Moab at the time of the homicides and had left the state of Utah shortly after the homicides and then later committed suicide. And in the release that I'm looking at here, Captain, the Sheriff's Office was asking for information on this individual, asking for information about his vehicle, the whereabouts of his vehicle around the time in question, which was a black 2007 Yaris.
Now, the news report that we played you came out, and if I'm correct, it came out in May 11th of 2022. So where are we at now? Or were they able to test evidence against this guy so they can actually close the case? Because I hate it when they go, look, he's our best suspect. We think he's the one that did it, and we're just going to close the case.
Well, it looks like as of the date of recording this conversation we are having here, Captain, that the case technically remains unsolved. While we have them going on record stating, this is our suspect. We have evidence and we have reason to believe, so much so that we are announcing this and confirming this to the public, that we, the police, feel that this is the most likely suspect for the killings of these 2 women, and his name is Adam, and here is his picture. We would like to have more information about Adam. We would like to have more information about his vehicle, his whereabouts, the whereabouts of his vehicle, especially during the time in question, that weekend in question, from the time when they went missing to the time that they were eventually found having been gunned down.
Yeah, and this one's difficult for me because there's been a lot of people that point out maybe a glaring conflict about Adam. Is if he worked with Crystal, wouldn't Crystal know who he was? And so when they were at the bar that night talking to their friends saying, hey, there's this creepy guy that's camping by us, wouldn't they identify him by name?
Yes, one would think so. But again, we also don't need the killer and the creepy guy to be the same person.
True.
And we don't know. Again, we sit here from 30,000 feet away, right? You know, and I know that's kind of the random distance that I keep throwing on these cases, but that's how I feel sometimes.
I'm sitting a little closer than you are, though.
We are, we're eyeballs deep in these cases, but at the same time, we have to remind ourselves and remind others out there listening of the simple fact that we can't look at this situation and just start making leaps of our own, right? We can't assume that, they work together, so they had to know one another. Right. Now, there are people out there that have reported that are closer to the situation and have reported that they believe that at least one of the women would have known this Adam person because they worked together. But again, we don't know, does that mean they actually worked together at the McDonald's at the same time?
Yeah, or did they
or they seeing this weirdo in the middle of the night and now he's got a beard and he's dressed completely different.
You took my damn point.
Sorry.
Yes. yeah, no, because it's like, here's a bearded guy, his face would be pretty covered with the beard, and you're seeing him at night, and so it's like, yeah, you might know who he is. And it's like, I would know who you are if I saw you during the day, but if you just pulled up to a campsite from a distance, I might be like, well, that guy looks similar to Nick, but if I didn't get a good look at your face and the light, I wouldn't know it was you.
Well, and we also don't know what the conversation was between them and their friends at the bar.
Right.
There's this creepy guy. Oh, do you know who he is? It's because it sounds like several people in the area were experiencing this van life, and who knows? They may had a simple answer of, yeah, we've seen him around Moab. We've seen him camping at places before. No, I don't know if I know his name. But, yeah, I don't think that, to say that this is not our guy, it seems like police have a lot of reason to believe that this is the guy. And I feel like it probably goes beyond him just telling this person that he, prior to killing himself, that he killed 2 women in Utah. One, that's a big hurdle.
Right.
But again, we're hearing that secondhand. The interesting part to me is we know very little about the crime scene because police, rightfully so, held a lot of that information back. But in their release about this suspect, they specifically say and go out of their way to tell us that he also provided specific details that were known only to investigators.
Right.
There's something in his statement to his person, his friend.
The confession.
There's something in that confession that when this man or this person relays this information to the police, their ears perk up and they go, wait a second.
Yep. He shouldn't know that information.
He could have known the number of shots. He could have known something that was very specific to the crime. So this is where we are still asking for help, and police are still asking for help. And with this case being relatively recent, they're still hoping and thinking that there's somebody out there that may have some information, may have seen something, witnessed something, heard something, have something on their cell phone in a background picture or background of a video somewhere that may have been in this area that weekend that's in question, and they are unaware yet that they need to be coming forward with information. So the Grant County Sheriff's Office is still looking for any information regarding this Adam individual and his vehicle, which again is a black 2007 Yaris.
Well, and hopefully they'll be able to test different pieces of evidence and they'll be actually able to close this case, because it would just be a shame to me to have law enforcement put all this time and effort in, not in taxpayers' money, and the whole community working so hard to try to get answers to this horrible crime. And if it just sits here on the shelf, not solved, it's just an injustice, and I'd hate to see that.
There was a recent article that came out in August of this year. We're talking just a few days ago, actually, called The Justice Files, Father of Murdered Woman Confident Who Killed Her. This is from ABC4.com. And they're talking about and talking with Sean-Paul Schulte, the man who really led and spearheaded the drive to help find his daughter and then to find information, get evidence, figure out who was responsible for killing his daughter and his daughter-in-law. And he says that it's the confidence. It's the way that law enforcement and unified police are speaking with him now. They can't tell him what they have, but they are telling him that once they hand over the case files to him, once this is all closed and the case is done, they're going to hand over the files to him, and they've told him he will be shocked by the preponderance of evidence. So this is really putting a lot of confidence in the statement that they have the right guy, that law enforcement believe that they have the right guy, and the father also believes that they have the right guy. He goes on to say that he, meaning the killer, was very careless at the crime scene, and even though there was multiple types of ammo used, that he still believes, and law enforcement still believes, that it was only one person with one weapon that committed this crime. He does go on in this most recent article to say that yes, Crystal Turner, his daughter, and this Adam individual, the suspect, did have at least one or two interactions directly with one another, so they did know each other. But this is the father saying that we are confident that they got the right guy. Again, they're still looking for information. He says that they know that Adam fled Moab after the women were murdered, and then it was in September of 2021 that Adam committed suicide. But to this date, they've not named him as the killer.
Yeah, law enforcement is going to do their due diligence, and like you said in this article, they're stating we have a plethora of evidence. And it's not just that he fled that area, it's also that he confessed to somebody and then committed suicide.
And Sean-Paul Schulte says, yeah, 100%, we're talking about Adam being our guy. We're talking about him acting alone.
Thanks for joining us here in the garage, the flying garage ship, like the Colonel likes to call it. Colonel, do we have any recommended reading this week?
This week we are recommending Trailed, One Woman's Quest to Solve the Shenandoah Murders by Catherine Miles. This is a nonfiction account that reads like a modern-day thriller. We recently recommended Trailed, but this week's case, we're recommending it again because this week's case that we covered here, it's just too eerily similar to the Shenandoah murders case. So check out Catherine Miles' book, Trailed. I think it's one of the best true crime books to come out this year. That's Trailed, One Woman's Quest to Solve the Shenandoah Murders. You can find that great title and many more on our website, truecrimegarage.com. Click on the recommended page.
Yeah, and until next week, be good, be kind,
and don't litter.
When it comes to teaching kids and teens about money, practice makes perfect. That's where Greenlight comes in. With a debit card and money app of their own, kids learn to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest. Parents send instant money transfers, create custom chores, and automate allowance, while kids track their spending, set savings goals, and practice money skills they can use today and for life. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.